Tucked away in the remote forests of Pennsylvania, USP Allenwood is a prison unlike any other. From the outside, it looks quiet, even peaceful. A series of grey walls and razor-sharp fences blending into the misty morning air. But behind those walls lies a history that whispers of violence, betrayal, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. This isn't just a place of confinement. It's a place where the air itself feels heavy with untold stories. Here, silence is more than a rule, it's a weapon. Every echo in the long corridors tells a story of inmates pushed to the absolute edge, of guards forced to confront dangers they can't control, and of a system that sometimes seems as unforgiving as the men it confines. For decades, USP Allenwood has been home to some of the most dangerous and notorious criminals in the entire country. Yet, it's the quiet moments, the unspoken tensions, that often hide the deadliest threats. The prison's reputation is built on more than just the infamous names that have passed through its gates. It's forged in the riots that erupted with little warning, the mysterious deaths that left more questions than answers, and the daring escape attempts that tested the very limits of its security. Each incident adds another layer to its dark legacy, painting a picture of a place where survival is a constant battle, fought not just with fists, but with wits and sheer willpower. In this documentary, we are going to walk through the shadowed halls of USP Allenwood. We'll meet the men who live within its walls and uncover the shocking events that have etched this prison into the darkest corners of American criminal history. We'll explore the architecture designed for maximum control and the human stories that unfolded within it. Every lock, every cell, every closed door has a story waiting to be told, and some of them are far more terrifying than anything you've imagined. This is USP Allenwood, the quiet prison with a deadly past. The day begins like any other at USP Allenwood, but here, ordinary can be deadly. As guards move through the compound with practiced caution, their keys jingle like a warning in the early morning fog. Inmates rise from their cells, where even the smallest sound is met with suspicion. Every footstep on the concrete, every clatter of metal, echoes through the empty corridors like a drumbeat of danger. Many who enter these walls never truly leave. Not just physically, but mentally. The prison doesn't just confine bodies, it shapes minds, twists tempers, and turns even the calmest men into threats. Violence doesn't always erupt. It simmers quietly, like smoke in a chimney, waiting for a single spark to ignite it into flames that no one can contain. And yet, for all its deadly reputation, USP Allenwood remains eerily quiet. It's a silence that unnerves even the most seasoned officers, because in a place like this, silence is never empty. It's loaded, like a gun with a finger on the trigger. USP Allenwood didn't earn its reputation overnight. Built to house some of the most dangerous offenders in the federal system, it quickly became a crucible where tempers, fears, and past crimes collided. Inmates arrive carrying the weight of their histories, murders, organized crime, drug empires, and once inside, those pasts are never left behind. They follow you, shadowing every step, influencing every decision, every alliance, every betrayal. But it's not just the inmates who define this place. The guards, tasked with keeping order, walk a thin line between authority and vulnerability. One wrong move, one lapse in vigilance, and decades of experience can be undone in seconds. At USP Allenwood, control is never absolute. It's fragile, maintained only by constant vigilance, routine, and sometimes, sheer luck. The walls themselves seem to remember every act of violence, every whispered conspiracy. Each corridor has seen fights break out over grudges that began years before. Each cell has housed men capable of calculating brutality. And the quiet is always the most dangerous part. Because in a place where silence rules, a single sound can be the prelude to chaos. History is written here not in newspapers or courtrooms, but in scars, whispered confessions, and the occasional echo of steel against concrete. Over the decades, incidents have left marks that even the newest recruits sense the moment they step onto the compound. Murders, stabbings, and escapes, some foiled, some horrifyingly successful, have all carved this prison into a legend of fear and respect. Yet, despite all this, life at USP Allenwood carries on. Breakfast in the cafeteria, the clang of doors, the shuffle of steps, all of it masks a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Because at any moment, that silence could shatter. And when it does, no one is truly prepared for what comes next. Some prisons are loud. They scream with chaos and violence that can be heard down the street. USP Allenwood is different. It whispers. It creeps into your mind long before anything physical happens. It is a place where the fear is subtle but constant, a pressure that wears on both the inmates and the guards alike. There are stories here that most people would find unimaginable. Men who planned their every move with surgical precision, only to be undone by a moment's lapse. Guards who witnessed horrors they could never unsee, yet returned day after day, walking the same corridors, listening to the same echoes. Every day is a balancing act between survival and submission. Alliances are fragile, friendships fleeting, and trust is a currency so rare that most never spend it. Those who try often pay the price: a stabbing in the dark, a fight over nothing, a cellmate who turns out to be far more dangerous than he seemed. And then there are the quiet tragedies. Moments that leave no headline, no record in official reports, but leave scars that last a lifetime. A man losing control in his cell, an argument escalating in the recreation yard, a whispered rumor that sparks panic. These moments define life here more than the big, sensational incidents. They are the invisible threads that weave the deadly past of USP Allenwood into the present. It is this quiet tension, the kind you cannot see, but always feel, that sets this prison apart. It is the reason why so many who enter think they understand the place, only to realize too late that the walls hold more than just concrete and steel. They hold stories, histories, and consequences that do not forgive. This is not just a prison. It is a living history of violence, survival, and the unspoken code that governs both inmates and officers alike. It's a place where quiet is deadly, history is alive, and survival is never guaranteed. Over the years, USP Allenwood has witnessed incidents that most would call unthinkable. Take, for instance, the men who believed they could outsmart the system, planning escapes in silence, testing every guard, every lock, every routine. Some were caught before they even made the attempt. Others succeeded, only to be recaptured, their names forever etched in the prison's dark history. Inside these walls, tension isn't built by loud outbursts alone. It's built in small ways: a door slammed too hard, a glance that lingers too long, a whispered warning passed from one cell to another. A fight can erupt from a single misinterpreted gesture, and by the time anyone reacts, the damage is done. Every incident leaves its mark, not just physically, but mentally, shaping the atmosphere for weeks, sometimes months. One of the most haunting aspects of USP Allenwood is how ordinary life continues amidst danger. Inmates line up for meals, attend classes, and perform daily routines. Yet beneath the mundane, undercurrents of fear and strategy flow like an invisible river. Every interaction carries weight. Every decision can have consequences far beyond what anyone anticipates. And then there are the past tragedies that continue to linger, whispered among the newer inmates like cautionary tales. Stories of stabbings in the middle of the night, of guards ambushed in hallways, of cellmates who turned out to be predators rather than partners. These are the moments that make USP Allenwood more than just a facility. They make it a test of human endurance, a crucible where even the strongest minds are challenged. The quiet, the routine, the constant surveillance, they all mask a past that refuses to stay buried. And it's in that buried past that you find the true danger of USP Allenwood. The fact that history has a way of repeating itself, and the lessons learned often come at a deadly cost. As we move deeper into the corridors, we will explore the stories that have shaped the reputation of this prison, incidents that shook the compound, and the men who survived them. It's here, in the shadowed corners and echoing hallways, that the deadly past of USP Allenwood comes alive, and the line between calm and chaos can vanish in an instant. There are stories that haunt the halls of USP Allenwood to this day. Incidents so sudden, so violent, that even the most seasoned guards speak of them in hushed tones. A simple disagreement in the recreation yard can escalate in seconds. Fists, knives, and fear becoming instruments of survival. Every altercation leaves a ripple, reminding everyone here that danger is never far away. One inmate recalled the night when a routine cell check turned into chaos. Doors slammed, alarms blared, and the clang of metal echoed through the block like gunfire. By the time the dust settled, one man lay badly injured, and the prison had been reminded that even the quietest nights can hide the deadliest threats. These are not isolated events. They are part of a pattern that has defined USP Allenwood for decades. The staff here know the signs before anyone else. A nervous glance, a sudden hush, a shuffle of feet. But even the most experienced officers cannot predict every act of violence. And the inmates, some hardened, some desperate, have learned to exploit the smallest weaknesses. Survival becomes a game of instinct, patience, and calculated risk. Yet amidst the danger, the prison continues its routines. Meals are served, cells are checked, and work programs continue. The contrast is chilling. Life moving forward while past and present threats linger invisibly. It is a constant reminder that at USP Allenwood, calm is only a mask, and the deadliest moments are often the quietest. Perhaps the most disturbing truth about USP Allenwood is that the walls themselves seem to remember. Stories of past violence, revenge, and survival are passed down like folklore, warning the newcomers. Some inmates adapt, some break, and some disappear into the shadows of the prison, leaving only whispers behind. It is a place where history is not just remembered, it is lived, day after day. As we continue our journey, we will uncover even darker corners of this prison, the incidents that shaped its deadly reputation, the men who lived and died within its walls, and the subtle, psychological battles that define life behind the fences. USP Allenwood is a prison where quiet does not mean peace, and every shadow has a story waiting to be told. Violence at USP Allenwood is rarely random. It is calculated, deliberate, and often born from grudges that have festered for years. Rivalries can ignite over a simple insult, a stolen item, or a perceived betrayal. And when they do, there is no room for second chances. Survival becomes the only rule that matters. One story often told among guards involves an inmate who spent months quietly plotting against a cellmate. Every movement was observed, every interaction calculated. Then, in the dead of night, a single misstep triggered a violent confrontation that left both men permanently changed, and the entire cell block shaken. It is moments like these that define the deadly reputation of this prison. Not the headlines, but the unseen, psychological games that push men to the brink. And it's not just the inmates who face danger. Guards, too, must navigate a world where every decision carries weight. One wrong command, one lapse in vigilance, can result in chaos. Officers have been attacked, threatened, and forced to confront situations that no training can fully prepare them for. In this environment, trust is rare, and tension is constant. The most chilling aspect of USP Allenwood is its quiet omnipresence. Threats are not always immediate, and violence is not always loud. Sometimes, it is a slow, creeping pressure that makes every sound in the corridor, every shadow in the corner, a potential threat. And this is the environment that shapes every man inside, inmate and guard alike. Despite all of this, the prison continues to function. Schedules are maintained, cells are cleaned, and programs continue. But beneath the surface, history is always alive. Murders, stabbings, and near escapes have left indelible marks on the compound, shaping the behavior of both inmates and staff. Each generation of men who passes through these walls carries the echoes of the past, and every decision is influenced by the deadly legacy of those who came before. As we move further into the story, we will explore the incidents that shocked USP Allenwood to its core, the acts of violence that seemed to come from nowhere, the quiet betrayals and the psychological games that pushed men to the edge. This is a prison where calm is an illusion, and every shadow holds a secret, waiting for the moment to strike. Among the most notorious events in USP Allenwood's history are the sudden, unprovoked fights that seem to come from nowhere. A routine day in the recreation yard could turn deadly in seconds, fists flying, weapons hidden until the last moment, and men who had spent years in prison brought to the brink of desperation. These incidents leave scars that last far beyond the hospital wings or disciplinary reports. They linger in the minds of everyone who witnessed them. Some inmates became legends, not for what they achieved outside the walls, but for how they survived inside them. Men who manipulated their surroundings, played psychological games with rivals, and navigated the prison's unspoken codes with lethal precision. Their stories are whispered in the corridors, a mixture of awe and fear, warning the newcomers of the thin line between dominance and death. The staff here are no strangers to these realities. Every officer walking the blocks knows the tension that hums just beneath the surface. They have seen plans foiled, fights erupt without warning, and men who once appeared calm explode with violence. And they know that in a place like this, even the smallest lapse can have consequences that echo long after the incident is over. Yet, for all its danger, USP Allenwood maintains a facade of order. Meals are served on time, cells are inspected, and daily routines continue with precision. But it is a fragile order, built on experience, vigilance, and the knowledge that history is never truly gone. Every fight, every attack, every death becomes part of the living memory of the prison, shaping behavior and instilling fear in equal measure. And then there are the psychological battles, subtle, invisible, and relentless. Men test each other's patience, push each other's limits, and manipulate the environment around them. Alliances form and crumble overnight. Loyalty is bought and betrayed, and trust is a luxury few can afford. It is in these quiet, invisible struggles that the true danger of USP Allenwood emerges, a place where the mind is tested just as severely as the body, and the consequences are just as deadly. As we continue, we will explore the most shocking confrontations and incidents that cemented USP Allenwood's reputation as a prison where silence is deadly, and history repeats itself with ruthless precision. Every corner has a story, every shadow a memory, and every man here is shaped by the past, whether he wants to be or not. Some nights at USP Allenwood are so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. But in that silence lies the true danger. It is in the darkness, when guards are few and the inmates are left to their own devices, that the prison reveals its deadliest side. Fights erupt without warning, whispers turn into plans for revenge, and even a small mistake can set off a chain reaction with consequences no one could anticipate. There are stories of men who came to USP Allenwood thinking they could control their environment, men who underestimated the weight of the prison's unspoken rules. They quickly learned that here, appearances are deceiving. Calm can be an illusion, and even the quietest inmate can harbor the most lethal intent. One inmate, a figure both feared and respected, reportedly manipulated his surroundings for weeks before a sudden violent confrontation changed the dynamic of an entire cell block. Another incident involved an argument over a seemingly trivial matter that escalated so quickly it left multiple men hospitalized and the compound in lockdown for days. These moments are reminders that survival here isn't just about strength, it is about reading the unseen, anticipating the unpredictable, and navigating a world where every decision carries a deadly weight. The staff, trained to manage chaos, are constantly tested. They know the signs, a fleeting look, a hesitation, a subtle change in behavior. But even with years of experience, they can't predict every outcome. And the men who call this prison home? They're constantly learning, adapting, and testing the limits, each day a battle for power, respect, or simply life itself. This blend of quiet routine and lurking danger defines USP Allenwood. The prison maintains order on the surface, but the shadows carry stories of the past, stories of violence, betrayal, and survival. Every new day starts with the same routines, but the history of this place reminds everyone that calm is temporary and peace is fragile. Some of the most chilling stories from Allenwood aren't about what happens in broad daylight, but what unfolds when the world seems to forget the prison even exists. In the dead of night, in quiet cell blocks, inmates make decisions that change lives in an instant. A whispered threat can escalate into a stabbing. A hidden weapon can turn a routine check into a life or death struggle. There are accounts of men who meticulously planned revenge for months, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Others acted on impulse, driven by fear, anger, or desperation, leaving chaos in their wake. Yet, even amidst the violence, some moments reveal a haunting resilience. Prisoners who survived attacks through quick thinking, and guards who prevented disasters through sheer instinct. One incident that still resonates involved a confrontation in the recreation yard. A minor argument escalated almost instantly into a full-scale brawl, involving multiple inmates and leaving the prison in lockdown for hours. The echoes of that day are still felt, as both staff and prisoners remember how quickly control can unravel. And then there are the incidents that become legend, the fights, the stabbings, the near escapes, each one a testament to the fact that Allenwood's quiet exterior masks a deadly reality. One inmate, once thought to be quiet and compliant, reportedly orchestrated a violent takeover of a cell block, leaving guards scrambling and other inmates terrified. Another case involved a secret plot hatched over weeks, ending in an incident that made headlines for its audacity. Survival at USP Allenwood is as much about the mind as it is about the body. Men learn quickly that appearances are deceiving. The quietest inmate might be the most dangerous. The friendliest smile could hide a calculated betrayal. And in a place where every decision carries weight, hesitation can be fatal. There are stories of inmates who manipulated not only their rivals but the system itself. They exploited routines, tested guards, and pushed limits until they found a weakness. These subtle psychological battles, quiet, invisible, yet deadly, are as much a part of the prison's identity as the walls themselves. Staff know the stakes all too well. Every interaction with inmates carries risk. A simple routine check, a casual conversation, anything can trigger unforeseen consequences. Yet, despite these dangers, life continues. Meals are served, cells are cleaned, and routines are maintained, but the tension never fades. The quiet is never empty. It's full of warnings, memories, and unspoken rules that dictate life within these walls. For the staff, every day is a delicate balancing act. Each action, every command, and every observation is critical. One misstep can trigger a chain of events that can't be reversed. Even the most disciplined officer is constantly reminded that control here is temporary, fragile, and always under threat. Inmates and guards alike navigate a world where calm is deceptive, and the daily routine masks a simmering danger. Every single day, history repeats itself in small ways. Old grudges reignite, alliances crumble, and the past leaves its mark on everyone who passes through these halls. It's a place where the quiet can be deadly, where control is fragile, and where every shadow has a story to tell. The prison's reputation is built on more than just physical fights. The psychological games, whispered rumors, silent alliances, subtle intimidation, are just as lethal. Those who master these games can dominate entire cell blocks without ever throwing a punch. For anyone who underestimates the quiet ones, the consequences are often swift and unforgiving. Even amidst the daily routines of meals served, cells inspected, and work programs, there is a tension that you can't escape. Every sound, every shadow, every glance is weighted with the past. Incidents from years ago still echo through the corridors, influencing behavior, shaping fear, and reminding everyone inside that the quietest prison can harbor the deadliest history. As we delve deeper into USP Allenwood's history, we uncover the moments that define its deadly legacy. Stories of survival, betrayal, and violence that leave no one unchanged. Through it all, one truth remains clear. In this prison, silence is never empty, calm is never safe, and the past is never far behind. And as we leave these walls for now, remember, in the quietest places, danger often lurks the longest. But for those who survived, the story doesn't end here, it only deepens. Stay tuned, because the next chapter of America's deadliest prisons is coming, and it will challenge everything you thought you knew about confinement, survival, and human resilience. Thanks for watching.